Chicago doesn't feel like a city at war anymore. And that's exactly why it feels dangerous. In the opening moments of this episode, everything looks almost settled on the surface. People are walking around like the balance of power is finally clear, like the dust has already settled. But that calm is fake. It's the kind of calm that only exists right before something explodes. Every major player is acting like they already know how this story ends. And that alone tells us something huge is being hidden. Nobody is asking questions out loud anymore. And nobody is making emotional moves. That means plans are already locked. The streets aren't quiet because the war is over. They're quiet because everyone is waiting for the right moment to drop the truth. That's been buried all season. This episode makes it clear that the danger isn't coming from guns or drugs right now. It's coming from information. Someone knows something that everyone else doesn't. And that knowledge is worth more than money or muscle. The way characters look at each other feels different, like they're measuring reactions instead of speaking. Every pause feels loaded, and every calm conversation feels rehearsed. This is the kind of setup where one sentence can undo years of loyalty. The episode slowly builds the feeling that whatever is about to be revealed has been sitting in plain sight, protected by silence and fear. Nobody wants to be the first one to say it out loud, because once it's spoken, the city won't survive it the same way. This is not peace. This is the moment right before truth turns into chaos. As the episode moves forward, it becomes clear that this secret isn't new at all. It didn't just appear in episode 10. It's been shaping decisions from the shadows for a long time. Characters who once seemed unsure now move with confidence, while others suddenly hesitate in moments where they should be strong. That shift is not random. It's the result of knowledge being held back. Small actions start to feel meaningful, like the way certain conversations are cut short or how certain names are avoided. This section of the episode makes the audience realize that clues were always there, but they were easy to ignore because the show kept everyone focused on open threats. While viewers were watching violence and power plays, the real story was hiding in silence. The secret has been guiding choices quietly, deciding who lives, who waits, and who takes risks. Some characters already know the truth, and their calm behavior makes sense once you realize they've already accepted what's coming. Others are walking blind, confident in a reality that no longer exists. This part of the episode feels uncomfortable because it forces the audience to question everything they thought they understood. The tension doesn't come from action, but from the fear of realization. Once the secret is revealed, past alliances won't just break. They'll be exposed as lies. Trust wasn't misplaced by accident. It was manipulated on purpose. The episode slowly shows that this truth was never meant to stay hidden forever. It was always meant to come out at the worst possible time, when it could do the most damage. And now, that time has arrived. When the secret finally starts to press against the surface, the emotional weight becomes impossible to ignore. Characters are no longer just fighting for power. They're fighting to protect their identity and their past choices. This revelation doesn't just threaten lives, it threatens how people see themselves. Some characters are forced to face the fact that they built their entire strategy on a lie. Others realize they've been protecting the wrong people or trusting the wrong version of the truth. This section of the episode focuses on reaction rather than action. You can feel the fear, the anger, and the regret growing in quiet moments. Eyes say more than words, and silence becomes a shield. The secret doesn't hit everyone the same way. For some, it feels like betrayal. For others, it feels like freedom. And for a few, it feels like a death sentence waiting to happen. What makes this moment powerful is that nobody can run from it. The truth reaches every corner of the story, touching family, loyalty, and survival. Even the strongest characters feel exposed, because this is the kind of secret that strips power away instead of adding to it. It reminds everyone that no matter how big your empire is, One truth can burn it down from the inside. This episode makes it clear that the real damage isn't physical, it's emotional. Once the truth is known, nothing feels stable anymore. And every decision becomes heavier than before. By the final stretch of this section, the episode makes one thing very clear. The secret is no longer something that can be controlled. It's moving on its own now, changing the rules with every second that passes. Characters are forced into choices they never planned to make, and hesitation becomes more dangerous than action. This truth doesn't just expose the past, it reshapes the future. Alliances that once felt unbreakable now look fragile, and enemies suddenly gain unexpected power. The balance of Chicago begins to shift, not because of violence, but because of knowledge. Whoever controls the truth controls the next move, and everyone knows it. The tension rises because there is no clean outcome anymore. No matter who wins, something important will be lost, trust will be broken, blood may follow, and the city will never return to the version it was before this moment. This section ends with the feeling that the point of no return is close. The secret has done its job. It has exposed weakness, created fear, and forced everyone to show their real face. What happens next won't be about planning. It will be about survival in a new reality shaped by one devastating truth. The deeper this episode moves, the clearer it becomes that the biggest secret was never hidden behind locked doors or whispered in dark corners. It was hiding in plain sight, protected by distraction and chaos. All season long, attention was pulled toward open wars, loud threats, and violent power moves, while something far more dangerous stayed quiet. In this episode, that silence starts to feel intentional. Certain characters suddenly seem ahead of the game, not because they are smarter or stronger, but because they already know what others don't. Their choices no longer come from fear or guesswork. They move like people who already saw the ending and adjusted their path early. That change in behavior is the first sign that the truth has been shaping events. Long before episode 10 ever began, small details start to stand out in a different way. Conversations feel incomplete, like important words are being swallowed before they can escape. Questions that should be asked are avoided on purpose. Even moments that look casual carry weight, because everyone seems aware that one wrong sentence could crack everything open. This section slowly forces the audience to realize that past scenes now means something else. Decisions that once felt confusing suddenly make sense. Hesitation wasn't weakness. Confidence wasn't bravery. It was knowledge. Someone knew the truth early, and that knowledge has been quietly deciding who gets protected, who gets pushed forward, and who is being set up to fall. What makes this secret powerful is that it doesn't need force to work. It changes behavior. Without touching anyone directly, people start choosing safety over ambition without knowing why. Others push too hard, unaware that the ground under them is already breaking. The episode shows how information can be more dangerous than violence, guns, and lies, but secrets control futures. That's why this truth was never rushed. It was allowed to grow, to settle into the system, to quietly poison trust from the inside. By the time anyone notices, it's already too late to contain. This part of the story also makes it clear that the secret wasn't hidden to protect someone's feelings. It was hidden because revealing it too early would weaken its impact. Timing was everything. The truth was meant to surface only when it could cause the most damage, when alliances were already stretched thin and loyalty was already fragile. That timing is what makes episode 10 feel different. The season didn't lead to this moment by accident. Every delay, every distraction, and every false conflict helped keep the real issue buried, until it could no longer be ignored. As the tension builds, it becomes obvious that not everyone is equally blind. Some characters are reacting to the truth without saying it out loud. Their body language changes. Their patience disappears. Their trust narrows. Meanwhile, others remain confident, still believing the story they were fed earlier in the season. That gap in awareness creates danger. When one side is operating on truth and the other on lies, collision becomes unavoidable. The episode quietly shows that the real threat isn't betrayal, it's realization. The moment someone finally connects the dots, the balance collapses. This section turns the audience into witnesses rather than spectators. You're no longer watching events unfold blindly. You're watching characters walk toward a truth you can feel getting closer. Every scene carries the pressure of an unspoken. Once the truth begins to press its weight onto the story, the emotional damage becomes far more dangerous than any street war. This is the moment where strength no longer comes from power or money, but from how well a person can handle what they are about to learn. The secret doesn't arrive loudly, it settles slowly, changing how characters see each other, and more importantly, how they see themselves. People who believed they were in control start to feel exposed. Plans that once felt solid suddenly feel fragile, like they were built on sand instead of stone. This section of the episode focuses on that internal collapse, the quiet fear that creeps in when reality no longer matches belief. For some characters, the truth feels like betrayal layered on top of regret. They begin to realize that their loyalty may have been wasted, or worse, used against them. Every sacrifice they made now feels questionable. Every risk they took feels heavier in hindsight. The episode shows how dangerous it is when someone realizes they were fighting for the wrong version of the story. That realization doesn't lead to instant anger. It leads to silence. It leads to distance. It leads to moments where characters pull back, not because they are weak, but because they are rethinking everything. Trust doesn't shatter all at once. It cracks slowly, and those cracks are what make the fallout inevitable. Other characters react in a completely different way. For them, the secret feels like freedom. It explains the confusion they've felt all season. It confirms their doubts. It gives meaning to instincts they ignored before. This group doesn't feel shocked by the truth. They feel validated by it. That validation gives them confidence, but it also makes them dangerous. When someone finally understands the real game being played, they stop following old rules. This section shows how knowledge shifts power without firing a single shot. People who once seemed cornered suddenly stand taller, while those who thought they were untouchable start to shrink under the weight of exposure. What makes this moment hit harder is that the secret doesn't care about intention. It doesn't matter who meant well or who tried to do the right thing. The truth treats everyone the same. It exposes lies, excuses, and compromises without mercy. Characters are forced to confront choices they justified earlier in the season. Deals they made for survival now look like mistakes. Silence they once used as protection now feels like guilt. The episode lets these emotions breathe, showing that the real punishment isn't death or rest. It's understanding exactly what your actions cost you. Family, loyalty, and identity all come under pressure here. Relationships that once felt personal are revealed to be strategic. Promises that sounded sincere now feel conditional. This section shows how the secret doesn't just change future moves. It rewrites the past. Moments that once felt genuine now feel staged. Words that once sounded honest now feel calculated. That shift is painful because it forces characters to question whether anything they experienced was real or if it was all part of someone else's planned dot. By the end of this section, fear has fully replaced confidence. Not panic, but a controlled fear that sharpens instincts. Everyone understands that once the truth is fully spoken, there will be no space left to hide. Masks will fall, lines will be drawn, and choices will have consequences that can't be undone. This is the stage where the story stops being about power and starts being about survival. The secret has already done its damage, and the worst part is that it hasn't even been fully revealed yet. By this point, the truth has stopped being a hidden threat and has started acting like a force that can't be controlled anymore. What makes this moment dangerous is not the secret itself, but how fast it begins to change behavior. Characters no longer have the luxury of waiting or thinking things through. Every pause feels risky, and every move feels like it could be the wrong one. The balance that once kept Chicago steady starts to crack, not because of a direct attack, but because people are no longer sure who they are standing next to. When certainty disappears, power shifts without warning. This section shows how information travels faster than violence. Even before the truth is fully spoken, its presence is felt. Characters begin making defensive choices, not knowing exactly what is coming, only knowing that something big is about to land. Old alliances suddenly feel unsafe. Long-time partnerships start to look like traps. People who once trusted each other without question now speak carefully, choosing words like they are stepping around broken glass. The city doesn't explode all at once. It tightens. Everyone pulls inward, protecting themselves, preparing for impact. What's unsettling is how quickly roles reverse. Characters who were once leading now find themselves reacting. Those who were quiet and overlooked suddenly gain leverage, simply because they understand the truth sooner. This section makes it clear that power is no longer about who has the most resources, but who understands the situation clearly. Knowledge becomes currency, and those without it are already behind. The episode shows that strength without awareness is useless. Muscle can't protect you from a truth you never saw coming. The fallout also exposes how fragile loyalty really is. Promises start to feel temporary. Protection starts to feel conditional. Characters begin asking themselves hard questions they avoided before. Who benefits if this truth comes out? Who loses everything? And who has been waiting for this moment all along? These questions don't get answered out loud, but they guide every decision being made. Silence becomes strategy. Distance becomes defense. Nobody wants to be the first one caught on the wrong side. When the truth fully breaks, this section also highlights how fear spreads quietly. There is no panic in the streets, but there is tension in every interaction. You can feel it in the way characters watch each other longer than necessary. You can hear it in conversations that suddenly end without closure. Everyone understands that once the secret is out, the rules will change instantly. There will be no time to adapt. You will either be ready or you will be exposed. That understanding forces people to move early, sometimes too early, creating mistakes that can't be taken back as the pressure builds. The episode makes it clear that the truth doesn't need permission to destroy things. It doesn't care about timing, loyalty, or history. It simply moves forward, dragging consequences behind it. This section is where the damage becomes unavoidable. Even without a final reveal, relationships are already cracking. Trust is already fading, and survival starts to matter more than honor or loyalty. By the end of this part, it's clear that Chicago is already changing. The secret hasn't fully surfaced yet, but its shadow has already reshaped the battlefield. And nothing will stand the same once the truth finally steps into the light. At this stage of the episode, hesitation becomes more dangerous than making the wrong move. The truth has reached a point where it can no longer be ignored or delayed. Every character understands that a decision must be made, even if they are not ready to face the outcome. This section is all about choice, not loud action, but quiet. Moments where people decide who they really are. Protecting the secret, exposing it, or using it as leverage are no longer ideas. They are options sitting right in front of everyone, and each option carries a cost that cannot be undone. What makes this moment heavy is that there is no winning choice. Keeping the secret alive may protect someone today, but it guarantees chaos later. Exposing it might feel like the right thing, but it opens doors that can never be closed again. Using it as a weapon might offer short-term control, but it creates enemies that we'll never forget. This section shows how power in this world always comes with sacrifice. No one walks away clean. Even the characters who believe they are doing the right thing feel the weight of what they are about to set in motion. The episode slows down here, giving space to internal struggle. You can feel characters replaying past moments in their minds, realizing how close they were to the truth without seeing it clearly. Regret becomes sharper, not because of what was done, but because of what could have been done differently. This is where pride breaks down. Strong characters admit, at least to themselves, that they misjudged people, trusted the wrong signs, or ignored warnings that now feel obvious. That realization doesn't weaken them, it hardens them. Once someone accepts they were wrong, they stop pretending. This section also highlights how isolation becomes a survival tool. Characters stop sharing information freely. They stop speaking openly. Everyone starts protecting their own version of the truth. Conversations feel colder, shorter, and more careful. Even allies keep distance, knowing that loyalty might not survive the next reveal. This isn't betrayal yet. It's preparation. People are bracing themselves for impact, trying to stand in the strongest position possible before the truth finally lands. What makes this part of the episode intense is the sense of inevitability. No matter what choice is made, the outcome will change everything. The secret has grown too big to disappear quietly. It demands a response. Characters understand that once they act, they will define how they are remembered as leaders, as traitors, as survivors, or as casualties of their own silence. That pressure forces honesty, even when it hurts. By the end of this section, the point of no return is clearly visible. Lines are mentally drawn, even if they haven't been crossed yet. The episode makes it clear.